All right, so welcome back. Today we're looking at third parties, and this is definitely going to be one of the shorter um, lecture videos that we have, um, in large part because third parties are a waste of time, so I'm not going to waste a whole lot of time on this. It's a joke. Third parties are important, and that's why we're covering it, but they can't win where they don't win. So we'll go through this relatively quickly because they do have a couple of important aspects. I personally, I love this. I especially love this over the last couple of years because, good lord, our options are terrible. So, should there be more than two parties? I think a lot of people in America would say yes right now. But the way that we conduct our elections doesn't really lead us to an answer of more than two. So, we talked about this already. We know that we have more and more independents or people that are claiming to be independent. So we've talked about the idea of de-alignment already. This is just an actual number, and the source material is down there. If you ever care, UC Santa Barbara has some pretty good data as it pertains to government, pretty good government resources. So third parties then they're not independent, so they're not the same. To say that you're a member of a third party, be it the Green Party or the Libertarian Party, you are still a member of a party. You would not identify as independent, although you probably would end up voting Republican or Democrat in a wide variety of races in which your candidate wasn't there. Right? So there's some benefits and then some significant problems. Obviously, some of the benefits are sort of self-explanatory. Um, the the benefits can be that they have um, more options, a wider variety of sort of ideals and ideologies and platforms and planks and all of those things that parties have. Um, So those are some significant benefits. It increases our options. On the screen in front of you, that's Jill Stein to the left. She was the Green Party candidate in 2016, and Gary Johnson to the right, who was the Libertarian Party candidate in 2016. And both of them are, well, the Green Party and the Libertarian Party are two of the more prominent third parties in America. But both of them garnered a fair amount of support early on. Um, Both of them fundraised fairly well for third parties. And there was some argument that both of them should have ended up on the debate stage. Um, they don't win major elections. Um, and so while they can be important, and while third parties do have some advantages and some benefits, um, they don't win elections, but they can impact the outcome of elections. And in fact, if you go back to 2016, because 2016 is actually a pretty good year to really talk about elections and campaigning and all sorts of things. There's a lot of examples that come out of 2016. But in 2016, you had both Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump um, basically trying to scare voters into saying, well, vote for Gary Johnson, who's the Libertarian candidate. A vote for Gary Johnson is really a vote for the other guy. Like Clinton was saying, a vote for Gary Johnson is really a vote for Donald Trump. And Donald Trump was like, a vote for Gary Johnson is really a vote for Hillary Clinton. Because there's the belief that well, Gary Johnson might be the guy you like, right? You might be a libertarian Gary Johnson supporter, but he can't win. Okay? And so if you vote for him, you're going to increase the chances that the other person that you hate more is going to win. And so basically, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were both saying to Gary Johnson supporters, yeah, you like Johnson first, but I'm your number two. And so if you vote for Johnson and you don't vote for me, because I actually have a shot at winning, then you're going to make it to where the third guy can win. That's sort of the spoiler role that third parties can play. Um, One of the benefits that they do go over is they often bring a third. issue forward. Or no, excuse me, not a third issue, an issue, right, and a significant issue, an issue that's actually being overlooked by the other major parties. In fact, Ralph Nader is on the screen there, and Ralph Nader basically created global warming. I don't know that I want to say it like. No one was aware of the problem until the Green Party and Ralph Nader in 2000. Right? Or nobody thought there was a problem, right? You can believe whatever you want to believe. Like, I'm not trying to convince you as to whether or not there's global warming. That's let your science teachers do that. Okay. But regardless of what you believe about global warming, it wasn't an issue. Nobody talked about it, nobody thought about it, and we spoke about it. It didn't show up in the news until Ralph Nader. Right? And then Nader, specifically in 2000, siphons off enough votes that would have gone to Al Gore, specifically in Florida, that gives Bush the election, and thus, now the Democratic Party cares about global warming. Every now and then you will get third-party candidates that can garner enough support to get on the debate stage. You won't see it very often anymore. The threshold to get onto a debate stage is pretty high. And I think you've seen some of the statistics already when you looked at the Electoral College. This is Ross Perot in 1992. He got nearly 20% of the popular vote. He got no Electoral College votes, none, not one. Why does it say 2001 election? That's a typo. I mean, that's when they become president. That's when Bush became president. The 2000 election was again sort of Bush v. Gore v. Nader, who is the guy that ultimately sort of comes in there and spoils that for Al Gore. Bush's win was a surprise to a lot of people. Right, and so there's the idea, or the worry that Johnson could have done the same thing in 2016. And I don't think that that's the case. One, Gary Johnson got, I think, 3.4% of the vote, which is fairly substantial, but nowhere near sort of like the threshold of a Ross Perot. Granted, it was more than Ralph Nader, but there were enough issues at stake between Clinton and Trump that I don't think you could make the argument that Gary Johnson came in and stole sort of the election for one or the other. So some third parties. The Libertarian Party is one third party. They're what you would call an ideological third party, meaning that libertarians have a full-fledged set of beliefs, and that ideological third party is counter to the single issue third party, right? A single issue third party would be like the Marijuana Now party, which is a real party that just wants to legalize marijuana. That's all they want. But the Libertarian Party, most people put it sort of way right, depending on the political scientists you listen to, or the books that you read. Some of them call them sort of pseudo-Republicans or Republican light or Republican anarchists. They generally get thrown in on the right side of the spectrum. But we saw with the political spectrum test that we took at the beginning of the year, that linear left-right is not the best calculator for your ideology, and especially not for libertarians. They would, and they generally do, sort of hate that left-right linear scale, but they do tend to be to the extreme, whether it's right or left. They tend to be to the extreme. It just varies by issue. The Green Party is a way left party. The Green Party is in reality, if we had a different electoral system, the Green Party is what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would be a part of for sure. So a proportional system versus a winner-take-all system. And this is important for you to understand. So we operate in a winner-take-all system, right? So that's the United States. Here we vote for the person, and whoever gets the most votes wins. So if 20 people are running, and there's 100 votes, and so I'm really bad at math, but one guy gets 20 votes, and then a whole bunch of people get 10 votes, and a whole bunch of people get 5 votes, and a couple people get like 1 vote or whatever, right? The dude with 20 votes wins, even though he only got 20%, right? So if one person gets 20% and one person gets 15%, then another person gets 15%, that'd be 50%, and then 10, 10, 10, 8, 5, 5, whatever, right? In a proportional system, you don't need a majority, you only need a plurality. And those are some words that you need to understand because there's differences. There's differences in meaning in those words. A majority is greater than half, right? Any number greater than half, that's a majority. A plurality is simply the largest subset of a number, right? So for instance, if you look at, ethnicity, right? And take, take various schools. Take LCISD, right? Like take Lamar Consolidated School District. If you were to look at LCISD demographically, and you were to break it down between white, Hispanic, Black, Asian, Native American, Pacific Islander, as many subsets as you want, 2 or more races, whatever, right? You end up with so many different identifiers there, and I think, I want to say LCISD is 40-something% white, and that's the highest subset. That would be a plurality. It's not a majority, right? LCISD, because it's less than 50%, LCISD is not a majority white in terms of their students, but it does have a white plurality. The proportional system is the European system. And here, in a lot of places in Europe, you don't vote for people, you vote for a party. And so then again, if there's 100 votes and 100 seats, let's say there's 100 seats in their parliamentary system, their Congress, 100 seats, and the Crow party gets 20% of the vote, they get 20 seats. And the Snake party gets 15 votes, 15% of the vote, they get 15 seats. And so you have many, many more political parties in European countries because the proportional system allows you to still gain some representation for your party, even if you can't hit anywhere close to 50%, or even if you can't hit the plurality number that you need to hit. So how does it work, right? If you look at these are the 2012 election results, right? The idea would be that in a plurality system, Democrats get some seats based on the number of votes they get, right? Republicans get some seats based upon the number of votes that they receive. And then you would have third parties that would get votes as well based upon however many votes they got. That's not what we have. Instead, we have that single member district where you're voting for the individual, and each district is represented individually. In a proportional system, there's not member districts like that, right? So it's not like Pete Olson is our representative, right? Like theoretically, it is what we want. The reality is if you're a Democrat living in this area, which is not uncommon by any stretch of the imagination, we're a fairly evenly balanced sort of area here. Pete Olson's probably not representing you. He's probably not doing what you want. Yet in a single member district concept, he's your representative, your guy. Your guy you think is terrible and sucks because he's not doing what you want. And so that's sort of another one of the advantages of the proportional system. And usually in class, we compare this to England because this is the model that the British have, right? And then with the British, the way their parliament works is because they have a wide variety of parties. Those parties sometimes work together on some issues, and then sometimes they don't work together. And so if you were to look at like the Libertarian Party and the Republican Party and the Green Party and the Constitution Party and the Democratic Party, you might have a coalition of libertarians, Democrats, and Constitutional Party members that might be in favor of, gay marriage, right? Or that are willing to work together on the issue of gay marriage. At the same time, libertarians and Republicans would be willing to work together on ideas like reducing the national debt. I mean, not that Republicans actually do that. They claim that they want to do that, but they don't. They don't ever do it. So it's probably a bad example, but I'm just trying to having a hard time thinking like what Republicans want that libertarians want. I mean, there's things where Republicans claim to want that libertarians want, but they don't actually do it. Not that there's not things that Democrats don't claim to want and don't do either. Obviously, we went over that with the platforms, right? Like, there's all sorts of stuff in there that they just throw in, and they're like, we're going to do this. No, you're not. You have no intention of doing that whatsoever, but that's okay, because you placated Bernie's people. Good job. Okay, so that's it. That's the end of third parties. So you can watch this, and now you've got a basic understanding of third parties. And then there's going to be another little video. John Oliver is going to talk to you about third parties, and hopefully, if I don't make you laugh, hopefully a British dude will make you laugh. And how un-America of you, but that's all right.